Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our guest, Yvonne Heath, is going to show us how grief and joy can coexist. So don't go away. It's a great conversation we're going to have.
See you in a minute.
The following program is presented by Loving Meditations.
Unwind and transform your mind with Peaceful Oasis Live, the concert series hosted by Tamara Green and David Dashinger of Loving Meditations. Masters of mindfulness, music, and storytelling transport you into a state of deep relaxation through soulful conversations, calming meditations, and expansive music, all brought to you live. View past episodes and sign up to get upcoming events and inspirations delivered to your inbox at peacefuloasislive.com. We appreciate you, our viewers, supporting our mission for peace and calm.
And welcome to another edition of Peaceful Oasis Live. I'm David.
And I'm Tamara. We are going to start with a super fast meditation that takes no effort, takes no special exercise or anything. And it literally only takes 1 minute. So, we live in a very stressful world right now, especially now more than ever. And our thoughts are just zinging around inside of our head, and we feel overwhelmed and worried, anxious, so stressed. So what we're going to do is take this minute to unplug our thoughts, unplug our brain. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and just go ahead and be a witness to all of those thoughts zipping around in your mind. All the worry, maybe the stressful situation or situations that you're experiencing these days. Go ahead and be present to all that activity in your brain. And now, as if we have a plug in our right hand, we're going to take it up to the right side of our head, our brain, our forehead here. And we're very present with all that thought, worry, anxiety, activity. And in just one big breath, we're going to unplug our thoughts. So get ready, breathe in deeply, hold it for a second, and unplug. And immediately we calm our mind, quiet our thoughts. The brain waves are more calm, flatter, farther apart. And all you focus on is as if you're looking out over a horizon line, a flat horizon line. And it feels better. When you're ready, open your eyes. Very good. And with that, we are going to invite our beautiful guest to come in after I read her bio. We love this woman. Oh, there she is, Yvonne. Yvonne
I'm all
Heath.
zen.
You're all
Sorry.
You're all zenned out now. So let me tell everybody about you and how wonderful you are. Yvonne Heath is a registered nurse turned author, speaker, and change maker. She's worked in 10 hospitals in the U.S. and Canada, including the ER, chemotherapy, and hospice. Wow. She became disheartened by society's reluctance to talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, and saw this as causing excessive suffering. And I've seen that too as well in hospitals. So she knew that there just had to be a better way, and she's here to talk about that better way. Thank you so much for joining us, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you. And I just have to say, I cannot believe, how long was that little meditation?
Literally about 60 seconds, I would imagine.
That's incredible. And you wouldn't believe the stuff that just like came flying out everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful, and it's less a minute, and you could do that anywhere, anytime.
That's it.
What
It
a
works every
gorgeous
time.
thing to incorporate throughout your day and your life.
Yes.
It's a great portable tool, which sometimes people might need to step out of the room to do it if you feel self-conscious, unplugging your brain in the middle of your office or something. But it's simply something you can do in between, calls, stressful moments, working with clients. It works really great, and it's simple and quick.
It's beautiful. I'm actually going to, after this call, share it with my 16-year-old twins. Like seriously, they're just starting school. There's a lot of stress, unknown, uncertainty. I'm going to teach them. So thank you for that.
You are so
Thank you.
welcome. Yes, we invite everybody to do it as often as possible, because the more you do it, like any practice, the better, the easier it is to calm the mind.
Practice.
Yeah.
That's the
Practice,
key.
practice. Yeah,
Practice.
just do it.
Just do
do
it.
it.
Exactly.
No
Yes.
effort. Only 1 minute.
No.
That's it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So I'm dying to hear about, no pun intended.
Dying,
on the
well
dying
played.
part. Because that's what we're going to be talking
Well
about
played,
tonight.
yes.
You are very involved in this beautiful topic that most people are really uncomfortable with. And my hat's off to you, our hats off to you for being able to go there. So you worked in all these hospitals and hospice and ER. How did you get to this place of talking about death and dying and grieving? And
Well, it's very simple. I spent my 27 years kind of stuffing it down, suffering excessively, grieving along with people, not really like I cared. I was compassionate. I'm funny. I made them laugh, but I suffered along with them. I didn't empower them, and I was not empowered. And, it's interesting how we started this when you said meditation is a practice. If there's anything that we want to get better at, what do we have to do? We have to practice. We have to, learn. We have to face it. And when it comes to grief, death, and dying, we just push it aside and we suffer excessively. So I knew that healthcare professionals weren't really having these conversations. Families weren't. Communities weren't. So I thought I would.
Yeah. And I run a weekly cancer caregiver group, and one of the things, because it is so uncomfortable, one of the things, we call it the green folder. Have you started the green folder? And of course, the newer members are like, what's that? And so the more seasoned members talk about how important it is to plan, and it's so hard. So I know I think you were wanting to ask a question. Do you mind if I ask this
go ahead.
question first because I'm excited about this question. What do you tell people on how to get yourself ready? How do you prepare? How do you plan? How do you be proactive in this area?
I know I'm doing the right work because I love these questions. And when you talk about the fact that it's hard and it's uncomfortable, we make it that way. This is what we are choosing in our society. So creating cultural change is hard. Imagine if we normalize conversations about grief, death, and dying with our children throughout life. And I believe that, like at 18, well, of course you did an advanced care plan, and are you an organ donor, and you just updated it throughout life. That's just normal.
Yep.
If we normalize these things, we wouldn't have to have these hard conversations. It's just at tax time every year, you just update it. How do I know this works? Because when I was writing my book, Love Your Life to Death, our 9-year-old twins were very much part of this journey. They have always been a part of this journey. They've been to funerals. I let them know everything that lives dies. Don't know how long we're here. We're all here for as long as we're here. So let's just really love each other now. My kids got so comfortable with it. They would go to Grandma's house and say, Grandma, like when you go to hospice, do you think I could have this little trinket? And I'm like, okay, so my kids are really comfortable. So isn't it interesting how we say, oh, this is so awkward and uncomfortable? Because we make it this way. Is there a better way? Yes. Mm-hmm. I have these conversations all the time. I am not uncomfortable with it. It's a little awkward at first when you have people like, they give you the big saucer eyes. They don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But I mean,
Or they don't
it's
know
part
how
of this
to talk
journey.
about it.
No, because we haven't normalized it.
And sometimes the conversation gets moved up, right? Maybe you were planning on having those conversations when you're a senior citizen, but all of a sudden you get the cancer diagnosis, and the prospect of leaving the planet is much more real, much more imminent, and then those conversations become like necessary,
You have
right?
to have them. You have to have them. Death is maybe imminent. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's always there.
Yep.
We don't all, I'm sorry, everyone, I have to tell you, we don't all die of old age, and we don't always get a warning. Mm-hmm. That's just one of those hard, if we could accept that, I say you don't have to like it, but if we could accept that, and plan our lives to be here as long as we're here, just planned throughout, imagine the excessive suffering we would be eliminating.
Yeah.
And what a gift it is to your family, loved ones, friends who have to kind of deal with the picking up the pieces afterwards, right?
Oh boy, have I
While
heard
they're
those
grieving.
stories.
While they're grieving. And then we've all heard stories of families fractured beyond repair because everyone has different ideas about what should happen. Everyone's looking at grandma's ring. 3 people. This is $5. I don't think anyone wants it, but everybody wants grandma's ring. Everyone's fighting about it. Like, again, avoidable, right? We can't avoid grief. We can avoid the excessive suffering we create by avoiding talking about planning and preparing.
Do you have any practical tips on how to do that?
Well, the first thing, and I love how I usually have people, they say, okay, they get their pen. How do I get my parents to do their advanced care plan? And the first thing I say, have you done yours? And then they put the pen down. Oh, but I'm only this age. Uh-huh. Do you remember how we talked about we don't all die of old age and we don't always get a warning? So wouldn't it be wonderful for you to say, Mom, Dad, awkward conversation coming up. I have done my advanced care plan because I don't want you to have to deal with this. I have planned all these things. I have this beautiful folder. This is a gift I have done for my family. I'm asking you to do the same because I want to honor you. I do not want our siblings fighting over what could or should happen or what should go to who. Let's do this now and give them a timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In your book, Love Your Life to Death, are you going through the actual things to look for, to plan for, to, the form? I don't know. Like, are you?
Yeah, I don't have the forms in there because, of course, my book is everywhere and it's very
Yeah.
different province to province, state to state. So at the end of the book, I asked a lot of questions, a lot of prompting questions.
Okay.
And, I just say, go ask your doctor, ask your lawyer for the forms. I mean, if everybody started with having a will, just for after you die, a power of attorney to make healthcare decisions for you if you were unable, which, by the way, let's not do that when someone's a certain age. My dear friend of mine, her husband has Alzheimer's, and he was diagnosed when he was 54.
Wow.
And
Right?
that points up the need to update these things on a pretty regular basis as well.
Absolutely.
Because things change, right? People get married, change their name, get older. Somebody might be a minor when the will was written, and then
Absolutely.
they're over 18.
Or they get a new grandchild.
They get a new grandchild like I just got. Exactly. And do you know how many stories are out there? And I know many people have heard this. I've had people who had a will and they had their first wife on it. They've been remarried for 18 years. This happened to a neighbor, and that she was not on, the second wife was not. They were together 18 years. His children made her leave her house.
Oh boy.
She had no right. So again, all avoidable. Let's just have these conversations throughout life. And to me, the adults now, like, it's a lot of damage control. We haven't normalized this. Let's do this now for ourselves, and then talk to our parents, and then our children, have them do it to help them create change.
Yeah. So, do you mind if I give you a little scenario?
Oh, yeah.
And then you would be talking that person on how to actually, again, the green folder. It comes up in my group quite a bit. So let's say there is somebody with stage 4 cancer, and their caregiver. They tend to be in my group, and they're too afraid to bring up. We really need to go through this. They don't even want to talk about it because, they think they're going to jinx it or something. How would you take that person and then walk them through, like, what's going on with them emotionally, and what are you, the advice that you're giving and walking them through?
I would first tell them to acknowledge and allow their feelings. This is hard. And then my greatest advice always is speak your truth. I would say to this person, and you'd probably be crying. That's what people say. Well, what if I cry? I say, well, get a tissue. Like, it's okay to cry. Allow your feelings. Imagine saying to this person, I feel horrible having to have this conversation. I feel sick about it. This is very challenging for me. I'm afraid. I don't want you to die. I want to honor you. And she could also say, I'm going to do my advanced care plan, because how many caregivers die first?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the statistics are pretty high.
Because they stop showing up for themselves first.
Absolutely.
And they do everything. So that's also another place to start, is saying, I need to do this for me, right? You also cannot push a rope. You can't force anyone to make those decisions or do their paperwork. So I would also say, if that is like, sometimes are you kidding me? I've had people look at the title of my book. Well, I don't want to talk about that. I said, well, that's why. You're why I had a book to write. But
Right, exactly.
thanks. But to have the conversations then, if you really can't, with family who will be making those decisions as well. With complete honesty. I feel destroyed having to have this conversation. I wish we would have done it before. I'm going to do it. We have to allow our humanness and give ourselves a break. Yes, this is hard. It's not going to get easier the closer someone gets to end of life, though.
And I've had a couple caregivers talk about their experience that their spouse with cancer actually got very angry with them. You know, how dare you
Absolutely.
bring this up? You know, well, I'm not going to die. You know, that kind of thing. So, what do you? How do you help them through this?
And say, yeah, I get it. You're very angry, and I don't want us to do this paperwork because you're going to die. I believe we should do, and I'm going to do mine because we're going to die someday. And I just want us to live our lives right now.
Yeah.
Get this out of the way so we don't have to think about this. Let's just get to the busy business of living our lives fully. But you know, when you say, I'm going to do mine too, this isn't because you have a cancer diagnosis, but that was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call, and I need to do mine too. See, it's the whole walking your talk, right? And again, yeah, allow your feelings, anger. Chances are pretty good they're angry at the cancer, and a very big part of grieving is getting angry that people, it's hard for everyone, right? Someone got really angry, I'd say, here, punch this little guy. See how you feel. Like, let's just let that anger out. It's okay to be angry. I'm angry too. I'm angry at cancer. I want to say a bad word, cancer, you know.
Yeah.
Let's be angry together. I'm angry too.
Yeah, very important to get those feelings out. This is a great topic, conversation that we're having, but we will be right back. Don't go away.
The doctor told me the answer, and now my head is spinning. He said I'm leaving with cancer, and my journey is just beginning. I'm stressed out and afraid. I have cried and I have prayed. Time to quiet my mind and be still. Take a deep breath and just chill. I put in my earbuds and decompress. Touch play on the app to ease my stress. I'm choosing peaceful relaxation with loving meditations. I'm loving meditations.
We're back, and we're having an amazing conversation with Yvonne Heath, who is the founder of Love Your Life to Death and I Just Showed Up movement. Yvonne, we've talked a little bit about cancer, grieving. Like, how can cancer patients be teachers, or what can how can cancer be our guru in terms of grieving and death and all the conversations that revolve around that?
So first of all, as I tell people, acknowledge and allow your feelings. Thank you for choking me up completely with those loving meditation clips. My throat's like, I'm just
Need
all
a tissue?
choked up. I'm all emotional. The people who I worked in 3 different chemotherapy clinics for over 15 years. They were my greatest teachers in the world. First of all, of how 2 people with the same prognosis, 2 families, and one family who, both the patients were going to die, and they were in their 40s. And this family over here, they stayed stuck in their anger and their grief, and there was no eye contact. There were no conversations, and we treated that person to death, literally, no matter what medical futility, treatments that are continuously given, even if they will do more harm than good. But the family said, do everything, that's it. And that person suffered and died in fear and anxiety. I can't look at Tamara right now. She's going to make me bawl my eyes out. Stop it.
Sad.
Well, it is sad. And I cried many, many times. And I masked my feelings with wine. And then I would see that family, and they just stayed so stuck This family over here, and I wrote about, I think of Kevin. Kevin makes me smile. I wrote about him in my book. He was in his 40s. His dad had died 5 years earlier of cancer, so his mom would be on her own. And he'd walk in that clinic. He knew he was, he was going to be treated for so long, and then he was, hey, everybody, how you doing? Go chat with every patient. How are you? And I just went, Kevin, what's the deal? Like, how are you like this? Like, I would go home. I'm like crawling home, crying because Kevin's dying, and he's in there making everybody laugh. And he just looked at me and he's like, what are you going to do? And then, ironically, Jordy, my husband, who's a paramedic, brought Kevin to the hospital. He was having a lot of pain, and it was his last visit. And I went to comfort him in the hospital, and I walked in, and I was just like immediately a hot mess, bawling my eyes out. I looked like a blowfish. And he's like, it's okay. And I was like, okay, now you're comforting me because you're dying. And we both started laughing. And you know what? Kevin taught me so much. He allowed his hard feelings when he needed to. And then he said, what are you going to do? He made people laugh. He made people smile. He cared about people. He made me laugh and smile and cry on his deathbed. And I said, thank you for teaching me what is possible.
Right. That grief and joy can coexist.
Laughter, I had black mascara running down, and I said, my God, have you seen me? And he's like, yeah, you look awful. And we were laughing. And I thought, somebody said to me, imagine, at the end of your life, as you're taking your last breaths or close to end of life, one of the last things you hear is laughter. Or, I am going to miss the heck out of you. I am a mess. Or tears and laughter and, just allowing our hot messiness and humanness. And so that was a beautiful lesson for me. And of course, my mentor from a distance was Patch Adams. Many people our age know Patch Adams. For younger people, go to Netflix, watch the movie Patch Adams, because he was a doctor who dressed like a clown, dressed silly, brought love and humor and laughter to dying patients, people in war zones, orphanages. Patch has been at the bedside of more than 10,000 dying people, making them laugh and making them smile and bringing them joy as they're dying. And now I have the privilege, I work with Patch, and, I just put my silliness on. It's already serious enough, isn't it? Yeah. It's already serious enough.
Yes.
It's already serious enough. Yes. And thank you, Tamara. I am mandated to make at least one person cry a day, so thank you for that. I'm good now.
You reached your quota.
Yes. Check. Got it.
We touched on this, and it's very timely as well. So what's the I Just Showed Up movement? What's that all about?
Oh, my goodness. I just love it so much. I have a blog. I just did a blog about it. It's just posting with 11-year-old triplets and a 10-year-old, and they get it. When I decided to write my book, and I said, I want people's stories, real gritty stories of being in the deep trenches of grief, being a patient, family, professional, getting through to the other side, what helped. And I said, I don't know if anyone will share their stories with me. Here we are 7 years later, and the stories haven't stopped coming. But the one thing that literally every single person would say to me, when someone's grieving, or their families or friends would say, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to say. When someone is grieving, struggling in a crisis, divorce, diagnosis, addiction, mental health issue, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to say, so we avoid. I said, that is the worst thing we could do. That's the worst thing we could do, because it's always better to do or say something than to do or say nothing. Yeah. So this movement, when you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and you can't fix it. The magic answer is 3 words. Just show up. And we created these bracelets that say hashtag I just showed up to start those conversations. And of course, you must just show up for yourself first. That's a whole lot that we could do a whole show about that.
Yeah,
Right?
10 at least shows on that one.
Absolutely. Well, because, and like caregivers and a lot of people have said to me as they're taking care of someone who has cancer and, they're having to do hands-on care. And I said to them, it's a hard conversation. Yes, it's awkward. Have it anyway. I said, what is the most important thing you can do? And she started listing all the things she needs to do for that person. I said, well, that's all great, but you're missing a very important piece. You need to show up for yourself first, eating, drinking, sleeping, getting a break, sunshine, laughter, humor, all all because otherwise, asking for help,
Unplug your brain.
Unplug your brain. Unplug your brain. Listen to meditation, loving meditations, because you will not be able to just show up for that person. Do you know how many times I've seen in my career the caregiver dies first?
Oh my goodness, there's crazy statistics about this. And there's actually a new diagnosis. It's called caregiver syndrome. So stressed out that it's starting to become like a diagnosis that the doctors give. But the statistic is if, let's say, you're 80 years old and you're caring for somebody, who has maybe end-stage cancer or any kind of caregiver, maybe it's Alzheimer's, you have 80% chance, if you're not taking care of yourself, 80% chance of dying before the one you're caring for. 70 years old, 70%. 60 years old, 60% chance. So in my support group, one of the things I can't say that word, routinely talk about is, what did you do this week that was really, taking care of yourself? Did you have some fun? Did you ask for help? So it's a routine in our,
I love that,
among the group members to talk about it.
I'll have to send you some bracelets because, but here's the thing, and here's where I help people understand. When you, the whole, in our society in general, and women in particular, we're like, oh, I just do everything for everyone. And, even with kids, whatever. Oh, she's so wonderful. She always puts herself last. Isn't she great? And I say, no, that is not. So A, you're being a very poor example to everyone else. B, you are not being your best self. You're probably very crabby. And that's not fun for anyone.
Right.
And, I'm sure that there are many patients who feel terrible that their loved one is dragging themselves and like, oh, I can barely function because they're taking care of them. And there's probably resentment. So, you know what? Here's the thing. Honey, like Joe from across the street's coming over. I'm going for a massage. I love you. And if I don't do this, I'm not going to be great.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, I just have to do everything for everyone, I say, no, we're choosing that. What can you do to change that? That is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Not sustainable.
Someone in that position really has to recharge, whatever that means.
Whatever that means. Yeah.
David was wonderful when he was going through the treatment of stage 4 cancer. He was so supportive of me, going to my yoga classes every day. And it was so nice to actually hear him say that, because it's so fascinating. Caregivers do so much and then they feel guilty for doing something for themselves.
And they wouldn't expect that of the person they're taking care of. And David, you're a perfect person to ask. How would you have felt if Tamara was coming in and she's all pale and she lost a bunch of weight and she's exhausted? Yeah. I mean, that's, not a great dynamic.
No, it just adds to the grief of the diagnosis.
Absolutely.
To see your loved one going through, declining at the same time.
Yes, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. So that's sort of a societal thing we also need to change, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
And just to circle back to where this started, this conversation about just showing up for the patient from that perspective, when someone finds out you have a serious illness or diagnosis like cancer, they want to do something, right? They always want to give you bring food, or what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
When you're not eating, yes.
Yes, exactly.
It's like,
I had
the
a refrigerator full of food that looked amazing, and it was just the last thing in the world I wanted to do
I
was
know.
to eat it. But the moments that stood out to me the most and were the most meaningful and profound were a few friends who came and just sat and just showed up and just were there. They were just being there with me. Didn't have to talk even. That part was so meaningful to me and really transformative, much more than everybody was coming from a place of love and generosity.
Absolutely. That's
But
what you do.
those moments of just being with someone who cares and, is being compassionate was, I'd say, the most meaningful of all of the,
all the
moments.
gestures, yes.
Yeah, gestures.
And literally the hundreds of people that I interviewed, all those things, hug, text, email, call, sat and listen. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. And that's so with this blog I just did, I had the girls, we talked about how you could just show up when someone, whatever they're struggling with, and they had signs, and they came up with them. Give a hug, say, I love you. You are not alone. Just listen. They get it. I said, is it your job to fix it? They went, no. I said, is it your job to judge? No. When you don't know what to do, what you don't know what to say, what should you do? Just show up. Like, right? Like, but imagine children teaching. And, David, see, in you sharing that experience, you are sharing a very important message. Just showing up. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. This must be hard. I'm here to listen. I'm a desire. And people would say to me, well, what if I cry? Like they were terrified. I said, well, get a tissue. I said, well, what if I make them cry? I said, well, you can cry together. You're crying because it's sad. You're angry because you don't want to deal with this. Allow your humanness. We just, we want to go in, right? I always tell people when they go to a funeral too, I had a friend who's, speaking of elephant in the room, people die young, no warning. His 34-year-old son died in his sleep. It was awful. Yeah. I mean, I just called him. There was no English. Like I was just hysterical. Like I was just like, oh, just crying so hard. And then, it's kind of like when things are so hard, if you can create a grief break with a little humor, not knock-knock jokes, but I said to him at the funeral, I pulled him aside and I said, Peter, people are going to say things that are going to make you want to punch them in the face, right? And he laughed for a minute. I said, I promise you, they're going to say he's in a better place. He was this, he's like all these things. Just say in your head, say, oh yeah, Yvonne said I'd want to punch her in the face. Try not to do it like in this setting, right? And I asked him later, I said, well, he's like, oh yeah. They had some, because people are so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They want to fix it. There's nothing to fix. It's just awful and so sad in that. And that's what I said, this is so sad. But we're desperate we don't want people to grieve. Please, everybody, allow people to grieve. That's how they heal. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be angry, sad, disoriented, Yep. There's no right or wrong way to grieve unless you're hurting yourself or someone else. That's my caveat to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's wonderful. And we'll pick up on that when we come back from this break.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
And
So
we're back
great.
with the wonderful Yvonne Heath. Yvonne, so many things you're talking about. I wish I had these conversations before I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And even today, I have friends that are working, living with cancer. And sometimes I feel like I don't know what to say. And I walk that walk. Like, what are, okay, if we got to say something, if it's a funeral, if it's someone who's just been diagnosed, what kinds of things can we say that are supportive but not cliche and not kind of, putting the person off by saying something that's not really helpful?
Well, so first of all, I think that we put so much pressure on ourselves to do or say the wrong thing or say the right thing. Most of the times I just show up and I probably cry and I hug a lot of people. So it's kind of like the less you say, the better sometimes. If you could, like lots of times, my infinite wisdom, I just say, this really sucks. That's my brilliance. And I just say, this is so sad. I'm so sad. My heart is aching for you. Like, I just allow my feelings, if you had to say things that might want to avoid, anything that starts with at least. Try to avoid the at least.
It's just not going to go anywhere good.
It's not going to go, right? At least you can try again if you have a miscarriage. At least they're in a better place. At least they're not suffering. The person grieving can say that. They can at least all they want. Let them at least. All you need to do is just show up and allow your humanness. I keep saying that, but it's like if your friend has a cancer diagnosis, if you're at a funeral, it's like, I wish I had something brilliant to say. I'm just so sad for you right now. Or I oftentimes say, I am here to hug you. I'm here to hug you.
Oh, that's wonderful. And plus,
I'm here to hug you.
It's coming from you. It's how you're feeling, and you're not projecting something on them and trying to tell them how they should be feeling.
Well, and the thing is that we have to also remember, it's truly like people say, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. I say, yeah, I know. This is about them. Let's keep it about them. Like if you're uncomfortable, imagine how they're feeling. Like think about it. People say, oh, this is so awkward. I said, yes, it is. Just show up anyway. And do it for them. Right? Do it for them and just love on them. Just show up with love. And here's the other thing. If you say something that they didn't like, is offensive, whatever, to say, I am so sorry. I'm a mess and I wanted to say something great and I sure did not. Right? Like we put so much it's like, well, that was and I've called people and apologized and said, God, I at least someone years ago, and I haven't done it since because I walked away and I felt awful. I just knew, right? I just said, why did I even say that? And I called and I apologized. I said that I wish I wouldn't have said that. That was awful. I'm so sorry. We're so hard on ourselves. And again, back to talking about having a meditation practice, which I think is so important. We do not practice this. We do not talk about grief before grief arrives. We don't even understand grief. Why should we know what to do or say?
Right. Absolutely.
There's no reason.
This is a new skill.
This is a new skill, I think, back in the day when people died at home and people were ill at home, there was no choice and children were around and they were there. They witnessed the aging process. They probably watched people have their last breath in the house. And then they were laid out in the parlor, in the living room. Now they renamed it the living room. So that was just normal. Then slowly but surely, we sanitized our society. Funeral homes over there, nursing homes over here. The funeral home will take care of the body. We don't have to touch the body. They'll organize everything. You just show up with your awkwardness, say, I'm so sorry, and leave. Yeah. I think we need to bring the process back to community, so that we can incorporate it into living, grieving, dying. This is all part of this. Who wants to live forever? Don't you get bored? Like I said, I ask people who doesn't want to die. Everybody puts up their hand. So, well, who wants to live forever? Like, really? How long you been married? 320 years? Like, don't you think? I mean, we're here as long as we're here, and then we pass the baton on. That's the gig. We're here to learn, grow, love, and then return home. Right?
Yeah.
So let's ease that process. Let's normalize it because it's normal. It's a natural part of this journey.
Yeah, you're really talking about just embracing life today fully,
Yes.
just going for it.
Yeah, and the process of life and beyond life. It's it's something that nature does so gracefully, and we haven't adopted that grace yet.
And many other cultures.
Yeah,
many
other cultures.
But see, here's the thing. I also, we are very reactive to grief, death, dying.
Yeah.
We kind of, there's a big gap, right? And we need to be proactive. And the first thing I believe that we need to do is normalize these conversations. What do we believe about life and death? I tell people, choose to believe something that is going to bring you comfort. If it's going to bring you comfort to say, hey, I believe in many reincarnations, say, oh, perfect, I'll see you in the next life. Figure out your beliefs before you're facing it. Mm-hmm. And understand grief and how you grieve and how the people around you grieve. Mm-hmm. Let's again, practice. Let's learn to do this better.
And we're learning from you and certainly COVID that grieving on some level is happening maybe quite often in people's lives.
Oh.
Let's talk about that so that people get an understanding. So what do you mean by, because we were talking about it before the program started, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, when I started on this journey, I didn't know we were going to hit the mother lode of grief, which is COVID literally affecting every single person on this planet. I mean, in one way or another.
Yeah.
So when you think, and I help people to understand that, in my understanding, grief is our mental, physical, and emotional reactions to loss, transitions, and change. It's not just when someone dies. Right. Divorce, diagnosis, job loss, change of home, change of routine, loss of friends, loss of social life. Do we have things to grieve right now? My God, the uncertainty, everything. My children are going into grade 11. They haven't had a normal year in high school. I said there's a lot of grief in that. Mm-hmm. But we do grieve throughout our lives, with every, even when there's good transitions, you think of children who are 5, they've been with their mothers for 5 years, then they go to school. There's tremendous grief in leaving home and excitement about going to school. Again, at the end of high school, you're excited to go to college. You might be grieving, or not, but you might be grieving leaving home. And your parents might be grieving, again, or not. Yeah. But that's where that grief and joy coexist, right? Even in good transitions, there is grief. Mm-hmm. You have a baby, tremendous joy. Suddenly, you can't just take off for the weekend. You have this screaming human you have to bring with you. So imagine the global grief on top of all the other things that we are experiencing. It's heavy. And we need to acknowledge it. Yeah. We need to allow it and be very intentional about bringing in the joy, the heart, the humor, because this is hard.
Yeah. This is very hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, and humor is key. It's just, that's the medicine that's going to get us through any of these situations.
God. Yeah. Absolutely. And find that humor. What makes you laugh? Do you watch, Anchorman? Sorry, that's a very inappropriate show, but do what makes you laugh? And just, feed your soul with laughter. Watch a puppy when you go for that walk in nature, that's just my, wonderful place. It just heals you, doesn't it? Yeah. And I watch the birds and the chipmunks and I'm intentional about watching the deer and watching things. And everywhere you go, there's something funny. When I go jogging in the morning, well, it's not very fast, but I jog. I walk and I see everybody driving to work. I see the faces driving and I go like this. I crack myself up. I don't wait for someone to make me laugh. I crack myself up. And I see some people are like, hi, and others are like, either way, it's funny. How he sees that, right? I mean, it's kind of like that 1 minute meditation. It didn't take very long and it changed everything.
Yeah, it's zero effort, and it's
Zero
it's so
effort.
transforming.
It's so simple.
Yes,
We
can
also
do it.
complicate things, don't we?
Oh,
So let's get back to
really?
simplicity. Yeah.
We do?
No,
Come
really?
on.
Yeah, no, sorry, I know. It's shocking. Let's get back to simplicity, right? Those meditative moments, nature, smiling, heart, humor, and allowing the grief and allowing the joy all at the same time sometimes. You know, like when I went out west to meet my grandson, Oliver, I was overjoyed. And it was also heartbreaking because I knew I wouldn't see him very often. I know as I say goodbye to him, I knew next time I see him, he'll be walking. I won't see him as a baby again. So my heart was full and it was aching all at the same time. So can you imagine what a mess I was? It was not pretty.
Well, you're doing such wonderful work. We
Thank you.
love and admire everything you do and everything you're about. And
Ditto.
so what else are you up to? What other offerings do you have? We talked a little bit about your book, and tell us what kinds of things are out there that are more examples or more tools people can access.
Well, anyone could go to my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com. And I'm sorry, I have to put this in there. The first thing you'll see is a fabulous speaker reel. It is extraordinary. And that guy right there put it all together and made me cry. It is so extraordinary. And I will be grateful for the rest of my life. So go to my website, watch that speaker reel and say, that David is fantastic. But I want to stay connected. I've created a community. I mean, on Facebook, but I have my program, Get Ready for Grief. I do a weekly blog. People can reach out to me anytime because this is about creating social change, cultural change, and connection is key. So I will be there for you. I will just show up. I just showed up bracelets are a wonderful reminder to just show up for yourself first. It's all on the website, and feel free to connect anytime.
And I love your TEDx talk.
Oh yeah, I did a TED Talk too.
Yes, you
Sorry, I
did.
forgot.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you. I really love doing it because it is all about the, just showing up. And when I did the TED Talk, I reached out to many different experts, those who help grieving children, those who work with in mental health, hospice, and I said, what do you think? And I really wanted to drive this message home of, again, we need to just show up for ourselves first. And when you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, just show up. Because that can make the difference in someone's life.
Like it did for David.
Like it did for David and everyone that I've spoken to, literally.
Well, we've had an amazing time talking with you, Yvonne, and
Goes
this,
by like that.
It does, but so much really, really deep and powerful and profound information, and the work you're doing in the world is so well needed. We just admire you so much for doing it, and keep on doing it, keep evolving what you're up to. It's just there's no words to explain it, but you're a rock star.
This is mutual admiration.
Yeah,
I feel the same about both of you.
We're having a love fest here.
I love that.
And I personally experienced grief and joy in this hour with you.
That's
So
what
they
it's all
can
about,
coexist.
isn't it? They can coexist. We proved it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. You just show up for people on their hardest journeys, and you are making a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvonne.
We're so happy to have you. And we want to make sure that you join us next time in 2 weeks. Let's see, I think it's on September
22nd. We're going to have a great guest. His name is Lee Tomlinson. He is a survivor of stage 3+ throat cancer.
Oh.
And through his journey of cancer and the treatment he received, he was on the verge of suicide, and through the gesture, the kind gesture of a doctor, he actually turned it around and created a movement and a mission called Compassion Heals. And he's a very electric speaker who talks to a lot of doctors and healthcare professionals to show them that compassion is a healing component to the healthcare, and that burnout is a serious problem for everyone. And he's got some great tips and tools to talk about. So September 22nd, Lee Tomlinson on Peaceful Oasis Live. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, please like and comment. We value you and your comments, and we appreciate your watching. So until next time, thank you, Yvonne, again.
Thank you so
and
much.
Have a great evening.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much.